Right. Good morning. We are just getting started here. We'll give it a minute for everyone to join here. We're excited to kick this off. I hope everyone's having a great day so far. Everybody's rolling in here. There we go. Okay, well, wonderful. We will go ahead and get things started. So thank you so much for being here. Welcome. My name is Heidi Flagg. I will be your MC today. And today we're going to be talking about sustainability and climate action within small to medium-sized businesses and exploring a few of the business benefits that you might not expect. So we're hoping to shed some light on that, share some information, and help you better understand the space and where it fits into your business strategy. Go ahead and move forward with the slide. So just a few quick items before I introduce our panelists. Today's webinar is scheduled for 30 minutes, which does include time for live Q&A. So as you have questions throughout the webinar, please do be sure to submit those through the questions box here in Zoom. We are recording today's webinar as well. So if you do need to jump for any reason, or if you wish to share this with any of your colleagues after the event, we will be sending out a link to that recording later this week, so keep an eye out for that. We will also be doing a few poll questions today, so as you see those pop up here within Zoom, please do respond. It gives our speakers insight into the audience we have with us today so that we can tailor the conversation to the group that we have. And with all of that, I will go ahead and introduce our fantastic and highly knowledgeable group of panelists. First, I would like to introduce Hannah Moskowitz, our Director of Sustainability here at Rice Strategy. Hannah works closely with many of our small to medium-sized business clients, helping them through their GHG emissions calculations and reporting requirements. And Hannah will be sharing some client stories later in the presentation today and to give you a little bit of insight about what this actually looks like in the real world. So thank you for being here, Hannah.
Yeah, thanks, Heidi. Excited to be here.
Lovely. Next, we have Jared Goldstein, who will be here, who you'll hear from quite a bit today. Jared has a deep passion for environmental sustainability and renewable energy. He's spent the last 4 years digging into various niche areas of sustainability, including residential geothermal solutions, offshore wind turbines, and small business emissions reporting and decarbonization. So thank you for being here, Jared.
Yeah, thank you, Heidi. Excited to be here.
And lastly, I would like to introduce Cooper Wetchkin, Rice Strategy CEO and founder. Cooper's passion has led him on a path to help small businesses navigate sustainability initiatives that allow them to pursue both profit and purpose. Through Rice Strategy, he's making a meaningful impact, and we're glad to have you here today, Cooper.
Thank you so much, Heidi. Excited to dig in.
Wonderful. And with that, I will hand things over to Jared to jump in and get started.
Yeah, excellent. Cooper, do you want to take this one slide here and then we'll jump into my content?
Can give a quick intro. Yeah, so again, excited to be with everyone today. I'll be talking a little bit less and handing it over to Jared for the most part here. But just want to give a quick introduction on us as a company. So Rice Strategy, we're a Seattle-based small business ourselves, focused on helping other small businesses to be more sustainable. So we got started really with the goal of combining both purpose and profit when it comes to emissions and environmental sustainability for small companies in particular, really removing a lot of the intimidation I think that a lot of us see, and particularly we'll be digging into RFPs today, requests from customers that can be a lot sometimes. And so we got started to make that process both easy, but also impactful, and at the end of the day, profitable for our partners. So again, excited to dig in here and explore the positive impact that we can all have together. And with that, Jared, I'll hand it over to you.
Thanks. So as many of you on the call are probably well aware of, and I imagine it's probably why you signed up for the webinar in the first place, sustainability really is a rising topic in the corporate world. Over the past 5 years or so, we've seen a massive uptick in sustainability-based sentiment amongst B2B purchasers and B2C purchasers. It really seems like everywhere you look, you see punchy statistics like the ones highlighted in this slide, demonstrating the meteoric rise of sustainability's importance in determining where purchasers are going to buy from and how much they're willing to spend in order to ensure that their purchase is eco-friendly. We've also seen groundbreaking regulations like CSRD in the EU and CCDAA in California, which are going to start requiring many businesses to start reporting their own company's impact on the environment. And as Cooper mentioned, and as many of you might be painfully aware of on this call, we've seen a growing number of requests from enterprise customers of many SMBs to really start reporting their organization's environmental impact, or potentially even risk getting penalized now or maybe even in the near-term future. So with this evolving landscape, we've seen a shift in corporate sustainability from really a nice to have to more of a core necessity for a lot of organizations. However, with this rising external and internal stakeholder pressure for SMBs to be more eco-friendly, many organizations feel like they're being kind of pushed towards an initiative that's really just going to take time, money, and resources away from their core operations without adding many benefits. But what we've found really in the years of working with hundreds of our clients here is that that's really just not true. There's a lot of benefits and revenue generating opportunities for organizations that embrace sustainability. So in the segment, we're going to dive a little bit into a few of those benefits that we find really insightful. And hopefully, when you walk away from this presentation, you can understand that sustainability really does represent a huge opportunity for your company. So with that, we'll go to the next slide and jump right in. So talking about punchy stats, I've pulled a few of my favorites into the slide really just to help illustrate the growing trend among buyers who are prioritizing sustainability in businesses and products when making purchasing decisions. One of the statistics that I like to highlight that shows how sustainability is becoming more of a core business opportunity for a lot of businesses comes from PwC's 2024 Voice of the Consumer survey, where they found that not only would 80% of consumers be willing to spend more on a sustainable product, but they're actually willing to spend almost 10% more on average on that product. If anyone's been to like Whole Foods, for example, or tried to purchase a sustainably sourced jacket or other piece of clothing, you'll notice firsthand how much more expensive those products can get away with being. Yet we really only see this behavior in certain industries. But as these statistics are showing, purchasers across the board, B2C and B2B, are really on the lookout for more sustainable products and businesses to work for and are actually willing to spend more on them. The same practice can be applied to industries across the board and really does represent a revenue generating opportunities for a lot of businesses who do embrace sustainability as a core business operation. And with this growing, buyer sentiment focused on eco-friendly products and practices, it's becoming more important for organizations to start building a long-term commitment to sustainability and make it a core function for their operations. By really embracing sustainability, you're demonstrating to your customers that you hear them and hear their requests, and in turn, you're boosting, your company's reputation and also making yourself a trusted provider to them as well. What these statistics are highlighting is through this initiative, you'll be able to attract more loyal, long-term customers who are also willing to spend more on your product compared to, your neutral counterpart or competitor. If you want to go to the next slide. So we've discussed how buyers are really looking for more sustainable businesses to work with. Specifically, in B2B purchasing processes, we've noticed a growing number of RFPs having dedicated environmental questionnaires. In some cases, we've witnessed these questionnaires allocating up to 20% of the total possible points on a proposal. In fact, a lot of the clients we initially work with approach us because they've noticed this trend and are either looking to fulfill a high-profile RFP that they've been given or preemptively prepared their organization to be able to fill out these questions in future proposals. You'll hear from Hannah a little bit later on about more client-specific examples, but I just wanted to use this slide to discuss more of the tips and trends that we're kind of noticing in the space. So most importantly, we'll stick on the first slide there. Yeah, awesome. So most importantly, with these environmental sections on the RFP, we've seen a huge emphasis on accurate emissions reporting. This reporting typically focuses on organizations' direct emissions, also referred to as Scope 1 and 2 emissions, but we've also been seeing a rising emphasis on indirect emissions, referred to as Scope 3. So especially amongst enterprise companies with more developed emissions reduction goals, we've seen this Scope 3 emphasis on emissions reporting. Typically, they're asking you to report these emissions on their RFPs in two ways. First, they can put together like a supplier portal, for example, for you to upload this information, but also, and most importantly, we've been seeing an emphasis on reporting this emissions detail and other environmental impact details through voluntary reporting groups such as CDP or SBTI or EcoVadis. And we understand that, you know, these reporting groups can be a lot of work and can seem very complicated. And don't get me wrong, they're very complicated and typically need a decent amount of resources to navigate. But each of these reporting groups work on some sort of grading scale that allows you to fill out portions of their questionnaires, and it might result in a lower grade, but will still allow you to check off at least some boxes on these RFPs. And what we've found is that if you're even allowed to do a little bit of this work and be able to check off some boxes on this RFPs, it's going to go a long ways in beefing up your proposals to potential clients of yours as well. So with these rising trends, it's becoming clear that embracing sustainability initiative and most importantly, measuring your corporate emissions is going to give you a big leg up on RFPs, even if it's just to do a little bit now and incrementally work through it year over year to you get to a point where you're in a really strong position there. Either way, a little or a lot is going to go a long way in helping beef up your RFP, get some points, and attract new customers for you as well. With that, we'll go to our first polling question, which is how many organizations have asked for you to fulfill a sustainability request? We'll just give it like 15 seconds or 30 seconds for you to fill out here. And with that, we can then go to our next segment, which is going to be talking about more how you can utilize this work to not just attract new customers, but also retain your customers as well. So as we've mentioned, many of our clients are initially coming to us to address environmental questionnaires that they're either getting on their RFP or from existing customers. The question we typically need to answer for our clients during our initial conversations is really why they're getting these requests in the first place. So as we discussed, as companies are becoming more focused on being more eco-friendly to kind of get ahead of these growing consumer trends, organizations are quickly realizing that their emissions are really coming from the indirect side, which lay on their supply chain vendors. So this leads to companies, typically enterprise level companies, to seek out environmentally friendly suppliers and start to request this information from their current suppliers as well, which is why you're seeing these questionnaires and RFPs, but also why you might be getting requests from your current customers to start transmitting certain emissions data as well. This is a huge opportunity for SMB businesses, because if you can provide this information to your customers, or better yet, preemptively supply it to them and get ahead of future requests, you're really only just going to strengthen your position to your competitors. Currently, right now, only 52% of SMBs view sustainability as really a core business initiative. So by embracing a sustainability initiatives and calculating out your corporate emissions, you're really putting yourself ahead of almost half of the companies in your industries. This is only going to make retaining your own clients a lot easier and help you also build longer lasting relationships with your partners as well. And so just to change gears from kind of more external revenue generating opportunities, I wanted to talk a little bit more about a very interesting internal business benefit that we've been coming across over the last couple of years working with our clients, and also what a lot of statistics and surveying are recently showing as well. So really, as Gen Z continues to join the professional workforce with their environmentally leaning millennial counterparts, we're really seeing a growing desire to work for environmentally friendly businesses. According to studies referenced in ESG Today, roughly half of Gen Z and millennials check a company and see what their climate actions that they're taking before they consider working for that company. I was also really shocked to find that about 40% of Gen Z and millennials have planned or plan on leaving a current job based over climate concerns and lack of effort that their company is taking. So, and aside from attracting talent or keeping talent, sustainability can play a very helpful tool in building a happy culture and making your employees satisfied with their work. In ADP's State of the Workplace survey, they found that 71% of employees reported sustainable workplaces having an improved culture over neutral or non-sustainable workplaces that they've experienced in comparison. So as more young professionals join our workforce, sustainability is becoming not just a core selling or marketing tool, but it's also a cornerstone for a lot of HR departments as they look to attract and retain and keep their employees happy. You'll hear very shortly more from Hannah about some of the sustainability work that some of our clients are doing with their own employees to communicate the really great work that they're doing on that front and kind of the results that they're seeing there. But before I pass the torch off over to Hannah, we can jump into our final polling question, which is going to be, which of these benefits that we talked about that do you think will positively impact your business the most? And from there, as you guys are filling that out, we'll pass it over to Hannah, who's going to just talk a little bit more about some of the client success stories that we're seeing here and how they're benefiting from a lot of the work they're doing.
Thanks, Jared. So I wanted to talk a little bit about a 3-year carbon management client of ours, they're coming from around 150-person management and technology consulting firm. And they came to us recently with an RFP that she filled out. So her team was submitting an RFP for a large US-based firm with offices worldwide. And on that RFP, there were these 2 sustainability related questions. The first one was, does your company disclose information through CDP or annual ESG reporting? And then, does your company have approved science-based targets, or are you committed to setting those? So because we had already calculated their footprint, it was easy for them to answer these questions and then have that necessary proof to be included in that RFP. So in this example, the client was able to leverage our carbon accounting work and satisfy those requirements of these 2 questions that were on that RFP, and then work together to determine the appropriate answers and then proof points as well to submit. The next example here, or the other way that we have seen clients utilize carbon management, is then to fulfill existing client requests. So another partner of ours, which is about a 30-person corporate relocation management service company, they had to fill out a sustainability survey from their customer. Right here, you can see we just included a few of these questions that are shown here, but it was pretty in-depth and there was more of like a survey that they had to fill out. So some of these questions that they answered were if the organization has public disclosure on their commitment to sustainability, if they have specific reduction targets, and if they have an environmental footprint already determined. So similar to that previous example we already talked about, the partner here had already been footprinting for a few years, but they had yet to establish any significant public reporting or target setting. So that could be with CDP or SBTI or anything like that. For question 3 here, they were able to satisfy that easily with our work together, along with a report to attach. But from this, they are currently working to publicly disclose their emissions and then determine what science-based targets would look like for their organization. So really main takeaway here is that if you haven't yet received requests like these from your customers or on RFPs, we likely think that they're coming, as we are seeing more and more of these come in from our partners. And because of that, getting ahead, incorporating carbon management into your standard business process and having accurate emissions data at your fingertips will make these requests easier to fulfill. And finally, I just wanted to touch on a client engagement success story that we have here. So our partner Launch is about a 40+ person firm. They provide strategic event management and production services for tech, biotech, and fintech companies. We originally started working with them to support them through fulfilling supplier sustainability requests from a customer. But since then, they've worked on actively addressing their emissions, and they really have gone above and beyond that initial request. They hosted a really successful lunch and learn where lots of questions came up and they had great internal discussion of how they can reduce their emissions. They have also established their first sustainability committee with members from around the organization where they can kind of start focusing on reduction efforts and employee engagement as well. So from the success and work together, they were able to schedule another lunch and learn for this year to continue that on an annual basis. This will encourage internal sustainability, which will be a safe space for questions and increase emissions reductions to hit their science-based targets that they've already set. And then a really great way to show internal stakeholders that sustainability is important to the company. So it's a really exciting success story and their work there as well. I want to pass it back over to Jared here, who's going to talk about how to get started with sustainability.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you, Hannah, for sharing those examples. So I think we can all agree there's a lot of great benefits that go into embracing sustainability as an initiative within your organization. But obviously, the big question is how can you even get started in the first place? So really, the first thing you want to figure out when getting started on an initiative like this is really start to understand who's going to be leading the charge on this initiative. It's obviously a group effort, but you want to see or you want to put together a group of people that can kind of really lead the day-to-day of an initiative like this and set goals and provide updates. Usually for smaller companies, they don't have the ability to have a full-time employee dedicated to an initiative like this. They have employees that are suited for their other core business functions and can't bring on someone full-time to do this kind of work. So what we've seen work for smaller organizations is to bring on a partner, an expert partner in the space who can help kind of lead the charge in almost a fractional sustainability sense within their own organization and bring their own kind of guided process there. For larger companies, between 3,000 and 5,000 or so, we're seeing the ability to have a full-time employee, if not an entire team, dedicated towards the sustainability initiative, which works really well for larger companies, considering they'll have a lot broader, ESG targets in general, and it'll be better to keep this kind of work in-house so it can move quickly as well. So once you've kind of identified who's going to be leading the charge and who you'd be bringing on to help with this process, the question is, how do we get started and what work do we focus on first? So typically what we're seeing in a phase one work best for a lot of organizations is to first, of course, like any big decision, align your business leaders and decision makers on this initiative. And it's then from there to set your own sustainability goals. It's really important to understand why you're doing this and what you hope to get out of it as an organization over time. And then probably the single most important part of phase one that we've seen need to be done is to complete a calculation of your corporate emissions and get a better understanding of where you are from an emission standpoint. This inventory, this GHG inventory, is going to be your guiding light from here on out to help determine how you're going to be setting reduction goals, what kind of reporting that you can do to like CDP or an SBTI, for example, and really set the tone for the years of work and the long-term commitment you're going to be making to sustainability and be that kind of plan of action for you. We'll jump to the next slide here. Awesome. So we've established, there's a lot of benefits to sustainability. We've established kind of what the first steps are going to be looking for. Whether you're using a full-time employee or bringing on a partner, it's important to ensure that that partner has a guided process that they can go through, the tried and true process that they'll be able to take through that makes sense to get you through phase one and beyond. Beyond that as well, you want to make sure that this process is as simple as possible. Sustainability is going to be new to all of your employees, and you want to make sure that it's simple to understand and simple to reiterate to them and not to overcomplicate it. And then importantly, especially for SMBs who are typically fast growing and have their own core business operations to focus on, you want this process to be as non-disruptive as possible as well. And if we want to go to the next slide and take Rise Strategy for an example, we have worked with hundreds of clients over the year and have really developed a holistic approach to these initiatives. We have a top of the line modern software to work with to help kind of point some of the more strenuous parts of the activity, like the data collection and reporting sections. And we have a team of sustainability managers to work with you and help guide you through the process that we've developed as well. So through this client work, we've developed a real great all-in-one kind of solution to make, especially SMBs, make this process very digestible and easy to access for a lot of businesses who might be a bit intimidated to get started on a sustainability initiative like this. And so with that being said, we'd love to talk with you if you found these benefits that we've discussed to be insightful, if sustainability is something top of mind for your organization, or if you're just not sure if it makes sense for your organization to explore something like this. We would love to speak with you, be a resource for you, learn more about your organization, and see if Rise Strategy can plug in and help you here, or at least in the very least point you in the right direction to get things started on your end here. So I think what we'll be doing is sending out a link to the page that you're seeing on this slide here, and you can use that link to access this page and sign up for a direct meeting with our team. And we can talk through some of the benefits we talked here. We can talk through your organization and start to lay the groundwork for what a sustainability initiative might look like for your business. And with that, I'll pass it back over to Heidi, who's going to be leading our Q&A session and closing out the webinar here.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Jared. And thank you, Hannah and Cooper as well. So we will jump into Q&A. We have a few minutes. We're happy to stick around for a couple extra minutes afterward if we don't get through the questions within our time here. And also, in case you need to drop, if you have questions after the event that we aren't able to get to, feel free to reach out to us. We're happy to continue the conversation. And like Jared mentioned, we do have this option to schedule some time to continue the conversation and maybe jump into some of your more specific goals and go from there. So let's jump on in here. We do have a bunch of questions coming in. So Stephanie has a question about what are the benefits in reporting to CDP and SBTI? Is it a requirement to get our carbon footprint verified by a third party for those? Whoever wants to jump in there, I don't know.
I'm happy to start there. So when we're looking at the benefits of CDP or SBTI, CDP benefit would be that it's a public disclosure. So CDP includes emissions questions, but it also includes other questions about sustainability within your organization, what kind of initiatives you're doing, opportunities, things like that. And that would be more so public, and that's something that you could show that you get graded on and that you're doing this. SBTI is more of a target setting body. So that is creating your target that you're going to do a science-based target that you're going to reduce your emissions, near-term emissions or net zero emissions. So they're kind of two separate pieces. SBTI does fall really nicely into CDP as well. And then as far as requirements, that really just depends on any request that you're getting from customers. So it really could range. You could have a requirement to have third-party verification. You could have a requirement to do CDP, SBTI. It really just differs on what those requirements are from that customer.
Great. Thank you, Hannah. All right. It says, one of the questions here says, I received a request from one of our customers to set science-based targets. Is that something Rye can do?
Yeah, that's something that we can help you out with, and would be a really great conversation to talk more in detail about. If you signed up for a meeting with us, we'd be happy to be a resource and kind of dive a little bit more into that request for you and help you navigate it.
Great. Thank you, Jared. Another question here. What is the cost to work with Rise Strategy to calculate our carbon footprint? Cooper, maybe that's a good one for you.
Yeah, I can hop in there. So our cost starts as low as $3,000 for small businesses. Obviously, that can vary a bit, but our goal is to really make this as accessible and as impactful for everyone as possible. So I think echoing Jared here, if that's something that you're looking at, always happy to discuss it further in a follow-on one-on-one here.
Great. Thanks, Cooper. Another question here, and maybe this will be our last one. I know we're at time. What are the best ways to deal with emissions that we're unable to reduce? Hannah, maybe that's a good one for you.
Yeah, happy to take that. So when you're talking about emissions reduction, the first step is to calculate your emissions. That way you can determine what those areas are. From there, you can dive deeper into those different methods to reduce those emissions from those top sources. And that's definitely something that we could discuss further of how we can calculate your emissions.
Wonderful. Thank you, Hannah. And we are at time for the day. I know we didn't get through all of the questions, so please do reach out. We will also be sure to reach out, especially to those of you who submitted questions that we didn't get to, just to make sure we get you all the information that you're looking for. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. I hope this information was helpful. There is a brief survey after the webinar. We'd love your feedback and any ideas about future topics that would be helpful for us to cover. And we look forward to the possibility of continuing the conversation and potentially working with you to help support your sustainability goals. So thank you, everyone, and have a great rest of your day.